Please, no applaud yet. No applaud yet. My name is Herman van Boring. And this is not a cell phone. This is a rectangle of experiences. Of course it's not. It's me, Pedro. But this is to alert you that the Boring family rules many museums. As we learned from the brilliant exposition this morning by Alan Charman, many child find museums boring. I know some grown-ups who find museums boring as well, those who are not museum professionals, some. And of course, one of the great things about EMYA is we try to promote those who are managing to pass that barrier to reaching public. And what brings me here after lunch? I'm not a digestive. I'm just here to present the winner of last year's edition of the Portimão Museum Prize, my hometown, who pays my salary. And the Portimão Museum Prize is all about belonging, welcoming, and inclusion. Different order, but it's the spirit is that one. And contemporary art can be a challenging field on this matter. But last year's winner managed to overturn that. Okay, you can think that they have a fancy building. Bilbao has the lovely Guggenheim by Frank Gehry. And they have a lovely building built by Renzo Piano. No, not shabby at all. But as we see, the Guggenheim had a great effect in Bilbao, a positive effect, and the piano building is also having a huge effect on the area where it was built. So this is a building that was, sorry, Umit, I'm already taking something out of here, but then you'll be the stars regarding the building. What used to be a harbor area, red light district area, now it has a building where people go to, where they felt belonged. It's not, it's mandatory to go. No, people like to go there and feel it as their own. And then there's the welcoming part and the inclusion, because one of the great things that they do, it's their educational program. I was discussing with Umit and remembering the numbers that were presented last year. I mean, 400 youth on your museum per day. Now, I don't know, my colleagues from Museum Portimão, if we put 60 on the same day, we know we get killed by our colleague at the educational department. But in this case, it's so great. And it's not just welcoming the kids, it's fostering them with a program that makes you think. And making you think, it's quite important nowadays, especially the values that we all defend, human values, democracy, respect, citizenship. And that's what's going on in the Istanbul Museum Modern. Sorry, I'm a bit dyslexic after lunch. I just had Coke. Istanbul Modern, let's go that way. But more than me yapping here about it, let's have a round of applause for Umit Messi, who is going to present the winner of Portimão Museum Prize 2025. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much, Pedro. I'm Umit Messi, I'm a curator at Istanbul Modern. I'd like to thank you all for being here today. Additionally, thanks to the jury last year for considering us for the award. So I will try to give you a general explanation of the museum, our education programs, exhibition programs, and other programs to be able to tell you how we are approaching to our audience and collections in a way. And then after this session, I'm more open to your questions when we're having coffee. So let's start with a video that tells about our building. will tell a bit more about the location. But Istanbul Modern was founded as Turkey's first modern and contemporary art museum in 2004 in the same location, and it was transformation of an old building, an old warehouse building, as we are situated in the old harbor area, which was active until 1990s. And after then, these warehouses were used mainly for contemporary art exhibitions, especially for the Istanbul Biennial, if you had a chance to visit before. And after the Biennial 2003, we took warehouse number 4 and transformed it into a museum. And when there was this big transformation project in the area, we had chance to commission a new building which would be responding to our needs and strategies for the future. So the location is quite important, also for Renzo Piano, but also for us. So we are by a cruise terminal at the moment, which is part of this transformation project. But some more about the history. So that is a photograph from our collection from 1936 by an Austrian photographer who was working a lot in Turkey back then, which is part of our photography collection. And actually we are looking from the historical peninsula towards the Galata area, which was a Genoese settlement until 1453. And that was something that Renzo Piano was referring a lot, like how a Genoese architectural office was building a new building to a place where Genoese were 400 years ago, basically 500 years ago. And then that is our location. As you can see, we are where the Bosphorus and the Golden Horn meets. And I mean, thanks to the location of the museum and the terrace, you can also see not only Asian sides, European side, but also Princess Islands of the city. So that was our old building that housed the museum for 14 years. That was also we learned with the building, of course, how a contemporary and modern art museum in Turkey, in Istanbul, should be working. That's from our old building, former building, from our collection exhibition. And when we left the building in 2018 to get ready for our new building, then we were in this building, which was the old Union Française building built in 1896 by a French Ottoman architect, a Levantine architect, Alexandre Valory. And this building was under renovation, so we asked them to renovate in a certain way that we could still continue our exhibitions and programs in a smaller scale, of course. But the pandemic started, so we were more focusing on the digitalization and also future programs of our new building. And when we invited Renzo Piano, that is the initial sketch by Renzo Piano for the design of our building, he wanted to create this very transparent ground level that will be welcoming the visitors and making this connection between the sea and the park behind our building. Because also, like in Mediterranean especially, when you have water in your south, then it's a good intangible architectural element to be able to sculpt the building with light and shadow. That is why transparent ground level and upper floors with the facade panels, they are actually changing every day, every season, depending on the reflections of the Bosphorus. That is a promenade in front of the building, so that is a cruise terminal. So actually, you see these doors that people are walking on, so when a cruise ship comes to make a custom area, they open, so it's like becoming a kind of a temporary customs zone. And you can see how the light and the transformation of the building works. And this idea of transparent ground level actually is quite important because, I mean, you know, anywhere in the world, not like historical museums, modern and contemporary art museums are a bit more hard to get in there because people always think they will not understand the art, they will not understand the content. So this idea of transparency was brought upstairs by the main staircase. And it's not only about these galleries that are, as you may see, we have a lot of paintings in our collection. We will talk about it soon. Of course, we have a library in the ground level. So as Istanbul Modern, like to be able to support this idea of transparency, everything in the ground level is for free, so people can come and enjoy the library without getting the tickets. Or we have the cafe area, again, people can come and enjoy anytime. We have the museum restaurant, probably one of the best views in the city. And yeah, that is our building. I mean, you're seeing the Beyoğlu area, which is the main culture and arts part of the city. And around us, there are many historical architecture buildings from different periods. So our idea was contributing this architectural ecosystem from this century. And collection. So we have a collection starting from late 19th century. However, our focus is more in the post-war era. Of course, like Turkey was never part of the Second World War. But if you think of the interrelations of Turkey and the world, Second World War was also quite important for our history. So that's what we're focusing on mainly. And since the beginning of the museum, we have a photography gallery in the museum and also a photography collection that is housing a much bigger number than our general collection. And then, of course, we are still doing acquisitions from artists from Turkey, but other corners of the world. But I wanted to put this fund as specifically that we started in 2016. So our chair is a woman, and with some other businesswomen, they are fundraising to acquire women artist pieces from Turkey to give more visibility for them. In Turkey, like in our collection, 1/3 of our art pieces are by women artists, which is a like compared to the other museums internationally, it's a good number, but we are still trying to acquire more. And then we have a new photography research center, which is working closely with our photography department, founded by the same family who founded the museum. By the way, we are not a public museum. For modern and contemporary art museums in Turkey, they are mostly private institutions, but with more like working for the public good with foundations and associations. So I will just give you, I won't tell you about the exhibitions, but I wanted to show you the exhibitions to be able to depict our understanding of how we can show both artists from Turkey and other corners of the world. Of course, in the collection exhibition, we have more Turkish artists, so it's a chronological exhibition. We are going to change soon. We try to change it every 2 or 3 years. Since the beginning of since the opening of the new building, we haven't changed it, so that will be the first time for us. And Semya Bergsoy exhibition we did in collaboration with Hamburger Bahnhof in Berlin, as Semya Bergsoy was also an important high dramatic soprano, and she was quite active in Germany as well. This exhibition is by our photography department, focusing on the photographers from Turkey last 10 years. And there is almost a permanent exhibition of Renzo piano and our new building in the entrance of the library. As I mentioned, people can come and enjoy without getting any tickets. And some past exhibitions, some Turkish artist retrospectives, some bigger names like Olafur Eliasson or Chiari Shiota was in our program, as well as some other artists. This was also organized by our photography department, which is not only photography anymore, but we try to make it more like landscape media in general. Or some younger artists with more digital productions. And I'm coming closer to the program. So we have a cinema department organizing programs every 10 months, sometimes responding our exhibitions, sometimes doing their own thematic selections. We have the International Artist Residency Program. We mainly focus on collaboration with international institutions to be able to host artists, not only from visual arts, but like Dimitris, who is a composer from Greece, but also based in the UK. So he composed an EP focusing on the location of the building, our collections, and the Bosphorus. Museums Talk that we have been organizing in Istanbul Modern since 2012, focusing on different countries every year. So this year we are closely working with the Dutch Consul General in Istanbul and hosting museums from the Netherlands. Young Tuesdays is a program that we are opening our doors to our audience aged between 18 to 25 from Turkey for free. and then our cinema department is organizing some public programming for them. Your Thursday is, again, we are opening our doors for free for the residents of Turkey. By the way, these all programs have their own sponsors. So we are a private institution, but not directly sponsored and financed by the founding family. So for every exhibition and program you're seeing, we actually do fundraising. And Long Friday is when we open our doors until 8 p.m. and we try to focus on contemporary music in the museum for people coming after work on Fridays. And education and social projects. We work very closely with them, but they have a much bigger world compared to our curatorial department. They are working very closely with many institutions. We are a private institution, but we are, I think, still the only or the first museum that has a protocol with the Ministry of National Education. So we are part of their curriculum now. So that gives a general idea of how we structure our educational programs. Of course, there are places we will see in the building just used for education. We work very closely with school groups and, of course, with their families. And digital learning is a new topic for all of us, but we're trying to focus on that a lot as Turkey is a very young country. So I think there is still much more things to be done there. We are doing publications focusing on young people and adults. And also we have certain programs that I will mention a bit, focusing on certain topics. So these are the spaces for learning. Discovery space is also in our entrance level, ground level, which is for free, focusing on certain artists from our collections. And Eco Art Lab is a space that we try to show the possibilities between ecology and art production. Studio STEAM is focusing on engineering and new materials with the artists. So these programs are not designed only by our education team, but also with some artists that are active in their fields. And Following a Dream is a program that we are focusing on young girls who wants to build their careers on art education or art production, let's say. And some highlights. We Meet is a program that we focus on children with certain special needs for learning. The Path of Art is one of the projects that, it's a bit complicated to have a museum, so you try to organize everything there, but what we are trying sometimes is also getting outside the museum. So this Path of Art is a program that we are organizing outside Istanbul in cities, not in Izmir and Ankara, which also have like small art ecosystems, because actually Turkey is quite monocentric in terms of culture and arts. So that is why our education team tried to bring their know-how and methods to different cities around Turkey. Of course, we are focusing on the mothers as well with their children. And that's a new program we started. So our education team started to go until 2 years old children. So that is a new, let's say, challenge for them, as they say. So I will give you some numbers. I have to check my notes now. So since our establishment in 2004, we organized 81 collection and temporary exhibitions, 47 photography exhibitions, 13 video exhibitions, and we also, especially in the beginning, as we were the first, we organized a lot of exhibitions outside Turkey as well, and our film department organized more than 400 programs to show 4,000 films. And since we opened our new building in May 2023, we hosted more than 2.5 million visitors. Like last year, we hosted 750,000 visitors in 1 year, and 1/3 of them are international and 2/3 of them are from Turkey, let's say. And as I mentioned before, Turkey is a very young country, so social media is quite an important tool for us to be able to reach to new audiences. And we are quite active, especially on Twitter. We are quite lucky that we have a lot of numbers. Also internationally, it's a good number. And Of course, Instagram is there. We are still working on our TikTok. I think TikTok can be another topic for all of us, I guess, which is a very new field to deal with. Thank you. That was my presentation.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the next panel, Transforming Art, Design and Architecture Museums. Today we are joined by representatives from 3 innovative museums, each redefining the role of cultural institutions in their communities. Their exhibitions focus on current issues and are aimed at wide audience from diverse backgrounds. All 3 museums actively collaborate with local artists and designers. We will discuss strategies these museums use to facilitate the dialogue on controversial relevant issues and how do they collaborate with architects, designers and artists to create meaningful experience for diverse audience. Let's welcome the museum representatives who will share their work with us today. Päivi Roivainen and Ilari Lamanen from Lahti Museum of Visual Arts Malva from Finland. Sorry for my pronunciation. Barbara Coutinho from Mude Design Museum, Lisbon, Portugal. And Ines Goldbach from Kunsthaus Baselland, Basel, Switzerland. No? Okay, I will now give you the floor, but first let me remind you that you can use Slido to ask questions to the panelists. So who will start first with the presentation? Päivi and Ilaria.
So,
Can you hear us okay? Yeah.
yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Päivi Roivainen. I'm head of exhibitions at Lahti Museum of Visual Arts Malva.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ilari, and I work as a curator of exhibitions.
Our museum is located in Lahti, which is about an hour's drive away from Helsinki, which is the capital of Finland.
Malva opened in 2022 in a former brewery. Behind the red brick walls, we have the old repurposed brewery, and behind the white walls is where the new exhibition spaces were added.
We have over 2,000 square meters of exhibition space on 5 different floors. Malva brings together 2 museums, the Lahti Art Museum and Lahti Poster Museum.
In our program, we have collection displays, commissioned site-specific installations, thematic group shows, and solo presentations of individual artists.
Here's some feedback from our visitors. Art feeds the soul.
I'm thirsty for utopia, for awe and inspiration, for deep experience and catharsis.
I want to be shaken.
And that's exactly what we aim for. For us, it's all about multisensory experiences, meaningfulness, and curiosity. As a new Museum of Visual Arts, our mission is to explore the wide field of visual culture, anything that visual art is and can be.
We are interested in the spaces in between, for example, the boundary between art and design. And we are always looking for new ways to surprise our audiences. At the same time, we want to engage with themes that matter right now, like Lahti's migration background, our relationship with nature, how we live with technology, and the different turning points shaping society today.
Digital art has played an important role in Malva's program right from the beginning. One of the first and definitely most impressive and most loved new commissions for Malva was Ahto. Ahto is a huge 15-meter high interactive artwork located in our lobby, the Light Gallery, which leads into all of our exhibitions. It's a multisensory piece that's constantly responding to people moving in the space, but it really comes to life when someone stops and takes the time to look at it.
Our poster collection is another key part of what we do. The poster collection includes over 75,000 posters. Through the International Poster Triennial, an exhibition and competition which takes place every 3 years, hundreds of competition posters are added to the collection every time.
Our art collection mainly focuses on art from the 1950s onwards. Our upcoming exhibition, Visio, features works of Malva's poster and art collections from the late 60s and early 70s, alongside textiles from the same period from our collections. Approaching psychedelic culture from a contemporary perspective, Visio brings the collection works into multi-layered dialogue with site-specific installations. Another example of how we work with the collections is transformations. A recent exhibition where the work of local artist, the late sculptor Olavi Lanu, was placed in dialogue with contemporary artists. Our specific interest was to honor the legacy of the artist while simultaneously presenting his work in a new light and also introducing it to younger audiences.
One area that's especially important to us is supporting artists with special needs or disabilities. These artists don't always have the same opportunities as others or a formal education that is often required to work in a professional art or museum setting. We work closely with 2 local non-profit organizations who support artists and art students who need extra support.
Together with them, we regularly organize exhibitions and grow our collection. At the end of the day, we want to make the art world a little bit more equal. And at the same time, we are challenging the use of power structures and questioning the categories society so easily puts people into.
To conclude, we want to show some examples of our current and recent program. Whenever possible, we want to support the creation of new artworks. Here you can see Spanish-born Karim Bumcimar creating a site-specific installation as a part of his very first museum exhibition. We also supported production of his new video work, which is currently on view at Malva. His work explores ancient mythologies as well as fluid representations of gender and queer identities.
There has been a strong interest in technology in our recent exhibitions program. Here you can see a new site-specific installation by the Korean artist Yein Lee, created entirely from recycled materials. Some of the works have entered Malva's collection, while the rest of them have been returned to circulation. The group exhibition Strange Attraction approached contemporary technological questions from psychological and philosophical perspectives, rather than simply adding more screens or applications into the gallery space.
At the same time, downstairs in the museum, the exhibition Type 3 took artificial intelligence as its starting point. Through a specially created guided drama experience, we encouraged visitors of all ages to reflect on their own relationships with AI and to imagine future scenarios, sometimes even quite dark ones.
And currently, Malva is filled with wild nature through their group exhibition Symbiosis, which explores the diverse interconnections of natural world in poetic and playful ways.
And just as everything moves in cycles in nature, we also return in this presentation to where we began. Malva is located in a former brewery. They actually used to make beer in the same spaces.
And that same history is very much alive. There's a microbrewery still in the building today, along with a cafe and restaurant. In fact, for some of our exhibitions like Symbiosis, we even get to make our own beer. That's not something every museum can say.
So, cheers, or kippis as we say in Finland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon to all of you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today representing MOOD, a public municipal museum where we strongly believe that design connects people, culture, and generations. This belief has guided our entire practice since our foundation in 2006, from the moment we reopened our doors in 2009, through our building closure for complete refurbishing in 2016, and up to the present day. Located in the historical center of Lisbon, we reopened our 8th-floor building in 2024, driven by the certainty that our common future stems from our capacity as individuals and society to listen, share, imagining, learning, and learning together. And like so, we see design as a humanistic tool that can foster a respectful interconnection, not just among us human, but with the entire living planet. This vision is written directly into our name, MOOD, from the Portuguese imperative word or verb, mudar, to change. Our mission anchors itself on 4 dimensions defined by transformation: nature, life, design, museum. A transformation that's inherent to nature, where nothing is lost and everything changes, and to life itself, despite our human tendency to resist and control it. Design is all about change, an intentional process of reshaping our world. And museums, as we have been talking, are also spaces of transformation. At MOOD, we try to help this transformation by building bridges and creating empathy through designing approach. And to spark this awareness, we divide design across all dimensions, from ideas to urbanism. For instance, during the refurbishing, we launched a communication campaign featuring the phrases "Mood in the present, designing the future," "Mood in the future, designing the present," applied both to the urban scale of the building banners and windows, and to the everyday objects also. This initiative invited people to reflect on our shared responsibility towards the future. This transformative work involves both tangible and intangible heritage, as showcased in our staff new apparel, designed to playful rethink together popular wisdom and inspire conscious daily actions. Our mission is also embodied in the building itself. Through intense research and space syntax studies, we develop a fluid circulation system so that each visitor can forge their own path through an open, universally accessible space. We transform an architecture original, conceived as a closed, hierarchical, and segregated bank reflecting an autocratic culture, into a living, inclusive, and dynamic place. We also interview former bank employees to understand the life experience inside the building as a bank, while deeply helped us our project of adaptive reuse. Well, due to these constraints of time, I prefer not to display now these testimonies because I have another video at the end. I don't want to take my time all. But these will be available from the next month on our audio guides and online also. So let me just go straight. Another example of giving visibility to those who are usually left invisible came when visitors were welcomed by portraits of the construction workers, women and men of different nationalities who built the spaces we now inhabited. This paid also a fair homage to all of those who anonymously shape our daily lives in our cities and countries through this labor and knowledge. Our strategy was to democratize spaces, proving that preservation is most powerful when it creates a sense of belonging. Spaces once for the exclusive use of the bank administration are now open for public encounters, active learning, and community debate. By breaking down these invisible walls, we transform a complex legacy into a meaningful shared heritage for the present and the future. Now visitors are invited to experience, to touch, to question and debate, collectively re-signifying the histories contained within the museum. At Mood, we believe a design museum must be the living experience of the change in action. An example of this is our new long exhibition, What Are Things For? Here, we raise critical questions such as, why are there so many things in the museum collection? Today, what is their true meaning and purpose? To live, do we really need to have so many things surrounding us? To lead by example, our exhibition design embraces full sustainability. We reuse construction materials from the building's works and past museum exhibition to build our display plinths and showcases. This aligns with the philosophy of reuse and upcycling methodology in commitment with the urgent need for economical degrowing. And intentionally, we shift the focus away from the iconic pieces, giving primacy to thought and discourse, bringing forward the voices of women designers, ideas of unfilled future proposals, alongside contemporary examples of regenerative design. Rather than giving closed answers, the exhibition is an open discourse, inviting each person to have an active role and self-reflect while questioning how and why we have so many objects that were conceived, produced, evaluated, and consumed. So we try to be a civic, culture, and creative hub to everyone, especially in the time when Lisbon Historic Center, like so many global cities, seeks to preserve its rich identity and authenticity amidst global tourism and urban evolution. To do so, we're driven by deep collaborations with local and national communities, artists, architects, designers, while warmly welcome also international visitors that cross our doors. We seek to create diverse spaces so that everyone can find their own time to listen, to think, to contemplate, to talk, to share. So together, one can learn traditional crafts or debate critical challenges like housing, while embracing younger generations' proposals on the climate crisis, individual rights, or misunderstanding and misinformation. And since we are in the center of Lisbon, a city that is, as it was always been, multicultural, diverse, global, welcome, we always want to bring the current portrait of the entire metropolitan area and its neighborhoods right there, or right here. As an example of this approach, and to finish, our central staircase will host an audiovisual installation, reflecting our regular practice of commissioning new works, a piece that brings the living stories of people from all walks of life.
Janelas da ribeira, se chove cheira a terra prometida, procissões têm cheiro a rosmaninho, na tasca de viela mais escondida, cheira a iscas com elas e a vinho. Guardimões, guardimões. E vamos então rezar estas 30 melodias à Nossa Senhora.
Mas tu não voltaste aqui. Achas que o tempo perdido agora olha bem para mim. Dizes que o tempo não passa, mas eu acho que senti. Achas que o tempo perdido agora olha bem para ti.
Lisboa, menina e moça, amada,
Sardinha linda,
cidade, mulher de nós, Sevilla.
So to really just conclude, we do this, believing as we all do, that we have an action that carries a conscious social cultural purpose. And design, to us, can foster really empowerment and active engagement for a full citizen and citizenship, but seen both as a right, but also as a duty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. Ines? Ines, the floor is yours.
It's a great pleasure to present Kunsthaus Basel-Land here at EMYA 2026 and especially to exchange ideas with colleagues from all over Europe. Thank you so much for having me. And I think especially in time when questions about democracy, about sharing, about care and community and the role of cultural institutions are becoming even increasingly urgent, I think these moments of exchange matter more than ever. Let me start with an artwork by the American artist Tony Cox, which is installed on the facade outside of the new Kunsthaus Basel-Land building, which we opened 2 years ago. It's permanently there. And Tony Cox works with language, color, and public space. And one of if it reads as such, if you want to evolve something, first you need a space so people can get together to exchange, whatever they're going to exchange. For me, the sentence perfectly captures the mission of Kunsthaus Basel-Land, which I have the privilege of directing for more than 12 years now. Because in the end, our work is not only about exhibiting art. It's about creating spaces for encounters, sensitizing our perception and taking care of others, spaces where people of different generations, either children or old people, can meet, exchange ideas, and challenge one another, and imagine possible futures together. I think that becomes more and more important. And this is exactly what I would like to talk about. Kunsthaus Basel-Land is a private association founded in the late 1940s by artists and local citizens. In early years, it had no permanent home. Instead, exhibitions traveled throughout the canton Basel country, appearing in schools, in former industrial buildings, train deposit, and many other unexpected places. So that's our DNA. Only decades later did the institution find a permanent location in the end of the 19th, a former carpentry workshop, and you see it here in orange, and storage building that became our home for almost 25 years. It was far from perfect, hidden behind a large football stadium and disconnected from the city. But despite financial restraints, of course, it offered something invaluable for living artists. A freedom in realizing exhibitions and courageous projects. Because we work primarily with living artists, the building became a place for experimentation. Artists could transform the space, intervene in the architecture, drill into walls and floors, and test ideas that would have been maybe not possible elsewhere. With the curatorial program, I've always followed two directions. On the one hand, I'm deeply interested in artists from different generations and backgrounds from our three national regions, where Switzerland and Germany and France connects. On the other hand, I'm to bring international voices to Basel, often presenting their first exhibition in Switzerland or in Europe. Whether established artists such as Anna Maria Maulino or Simon Forti, or younger generations of artists with a particular focus on female positions, the dialogue between art and space has always been central. And I give you two examples here of Lara Almategui and Piero Golia. Because architecture, as we know, is never simply a container for art. It activates and shapes what becomes possible. After 25 years, however, we faced an important question. How could we prepare the institution for the future? The existing building required major investments in sustainability, energy efficiency, and infrastructure. At the same time, we began asking ourselves whether the location still reflects the kind of institution we want to be. And then an opportunity emerged. A former industrial district called Dreispitz connected the cantons of Basel City and Basel-Land, was beginning a remarkable transformation. For decades, it had been a closed-off world of warehouses, logistic companies, container deposits, and industrial activities. A place few people visited, and of course none of them were living there. But slowly the area started to change. The University of Art and Design moved here, and I show you kind of the heart of it and the core of it. Maybe I can, so that's, no, maybe it's not working. So the tower is the University of Art and Design. Cultural institutions followed, art residencies, creative businesses, housing projects, and public spaces emerged. Today, 800 people from different generations and backgrounds live and work here. And I'll show you a project. This is the bit of the area, how we gifted the neighbors during our construction site with a fountain by Jeppe Hein, because a lot of children and also teenagers live here, and some of them, they can't go to the pool every day. For the building itself, we worked closely with the Basel-based architect Buchner Bründler. They haven't built any museum before, and I think that was quite something positive, because they were very good in listening. And rather than building from the scratch, we choose to transform an existing warehouse. Unfortunately, I have to say, it was a former champagne deposit, and you always expect art to be connected with champagne, but that's how it was. Reusing an existing structure was both a sustainable decision and an important statement about how we want to build our future and for the future. The architects inserted a new concrete structure into the hall. It was structural needed. You see the black part, and actually you wouldn't maybe think of it, but in Basel we have to build and to be aware of earthquakes, so the concrete was needed. 3 towers organize the interior space, bringing natural light deep into the building and create visual connections between different levels. And I'm going to show you some image of the current show. That's Matteo Matte. It's about traveling memories, and it's very nice to hear from Manuel before, because also Aline Motta is involved. And on the left side you have a retrospective with Eva Lutz and right Raphael Barontini. And you might get an impression about these light towers. The result is a very flexible environment that offers new possibilities for artists while encouraging visitors to experience art from different perspectives. Looking back, 2 challenges defined the project. The first was funding, and I know it's important and difficult for all of us. But as a private institution, raising the necessary resources during a period marked by pandemic, war, and economic uncertainty required a lot of creativity, persistence, and strong partnerships. And to realize these under 10 million project, we had to raise all the money ourselves. The second challenge was organizational. Kunsthaus Baselland operates with a very small team of only 6 people in every day. And as only I can be present with a colleague here, just want to show you my team, including our interim and of course a lot of free working people. Realizing a project of this scale was only possible thanks to extraordinary commitments of these people. Yet these challenges reinforced something that remained essential to us: care, inclusion, independence, despite all the need of financial things that we all need, but actually the operation costs are quite low in that building. Independence. This kind of independence allows us to support artists, take risks, and address complex issues and create spaces for dialogue, and open it up to new formats of mediation and inclusion. So what attracted us was not simply the possibility of a new building. It was a possibility of becoming part of a community, and especially not having a neighborhood, but being a neighbor ourselves. I do understand the Kunsthaus Baselland especially as a membrane to let everything from outside in and inside out. And to give you, in the end, like a better view and understanding of the building and what we do, I would like to conclude with a short video of an excerpt, and then I'm looking forward to my colleague to exchange with them. Thanks.
Wir verstehen aber auch das Kunsthaus als ein Instrument, das wir in krisenreichen und auch in den gegenwärtigen, unvorhersehbaren Zeiten miteinander zusammenkommen, dass wir die Wahrnehmung stärken können. Ich glaube, das ist heute die wichtigste Aufgabe von uns als Kunsthäusern, dass wir wirklich die Türen öffnen und die Individuen stärken.
La médiation culturelle au Kunsthaus Baselland, elle est pensée comme un lieu d'échange, de rencontre avec le public. Et c'est vrai que le public, c'est vraiment notre première source d'inspiration. Donc on a des offres pour les enfants, pour les adultes, pour des étudiants. Et l'art contemporain, ce n'est pas quelque chose qui est facile ou qui est familier pour tout le monde, mais l'idée ici, c'est qu'il n'y a pas besoin d'avoir de connaissances dans l'art pour venir. Il y a aussi un aspect qui est important, celui de l'accessibilité. On essaie vraiment d'abaisser les barrières d'accès à l'art pour tout type de personnes.
Wir haben hier mit den Architekten Buchner und Bründler aus Basel die perfekten Partner gefunden, um aus dieser alten Lagerhalle, eine Champagnerlagerhalle, ein Instrument für Kunst zu bauen. Ein Instrument, das alles zulässt.
When we're putting together an exhibition, we try not to limit the artist to handling the space in a specific way. And it feels a lot of times like an atelier, so the artists really are able to bring in materials that are messy or complicated, and we can spread out, and we don't always have to be careful about how everything is handled and restored, and the building can really kind of grow and breathe with each exhibition.
Desde hace 10 años, el Kunsthaus Baselland acoge la exposición de graduación de Bachelor y Máster en Bellas Artes de Basilea. Esta oportunidad ayuda a artistas en una etapa temprana de sus carreras a tener un primer contacto con una institución de este nivel y acceder a una visibilidad fundamental.
Es ist unsere wichtigste Aufgabe, zusammen mit den Kunstschaffenden hier einen Ort zu errichten, der zur demokratischen Erneuerung beiträgt, zur Inklusion, zu einem Zusammenkommen, der Gestaltungswillen stärkt und schärft.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. I want to be shaken. What a great quote to start our conversation. Your museums are known for exploring bold and challenging issues through art and design. You raise topics such as sustainability, climate change, cultural identity, urban expansion, or uncertainty of the future. So my first question is, how do you decide which contemporary issue to address in your exhibitions? And do you involve the community when making these decisions?
I think for our museum, which is a fairly new museum on the outskirts of the capital region, we have this threefold mission. So we are definitely catering to the very local, hyper-local audiences. To some extent, we want to make impact on national level, but also simultaneously, we are very curious about the international, broader phenomena. So in the best case scenario, we can kind of find the intersection of those three simultaneously. So as curators, we are very curious and open about what's happening in the world, what are the kind of hidden small signals and the trends that are happening on a broader level. But at the same time, for instance, the survey that we briefly mentioned about has been a really good tool for us to get very direct feedback. We're also working on a new collection display, and the starting point for the collection display was actually to have workshops with local kids and teenagers. And through those meetings with the local youth, we have started to formulate the upcoming display.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, in our cases, we are also very new or recent museum. And we have the lucky to have on that 8 floors, we have approximately 3,500 square meters for exhibition, for temporary exhibitions, plus the auditorium and rooms for other initiatives. So the way we intend is a little bit like you, to be local, national, and international program. And having simultaneously initiatives that you can, let's say like that, be a little bit more speculative, more experimental, and others that are more open to the whole, that can give a wider understanding of design, to mingle people, to mingle the visitors, to try to create really places of sharing. And in that case, in the national level, we work plenty with associations, with other museums, with schools, with universities, with associations of architecture, design, fashion, to try to organize with them a program of exhibitions that are up to date to the questions of Lisbon, Portugal, worldwide. And that it's very interesting because it's an opportunity to learn together and to also use better the resources, the human, the financial, the material resources. So I can say, and I think I'm not wrong, that almost 85% of our exhibitions are co-produced between us and other institutions, and that they are held in the Mood, or they can held also outside our doors. So it's try to really be a part of the community, and also have space yet for something that happened suddenly, and we can start to program a topic to discuss and to think about it.
Thank you. I like the word co-produced, because I think that would be also true for us. Of course, like living or working with living artists, I think the topics came up when you just open the newspaper in the morning. So you know exactly there's so much urgency you want to talk about. And then, of course, you have the artists helping you how to talk about. And as you saw, so we are surrounded by very young people, like students, but also older people. And as you want to share something with them, you want to hand out something to them, I think it's important to think about what kind of topics might be crucial for them. So what kind of topics do we have to raise with the voice of visual artists? And I think so it's always a co-production between what we need and actually who are the artists who can help us to tell that story, to open it up and make it, of course, accessible in a very emotional way.
And can you give us an example of an exhibition or project where you addressed a controversial topic, and how did you encourage public discussion about it? Because this is exhibition one thing, but then to encourage the discussion and public to be involved in the exhibition is a difficult process.
Well, we mentioned in our presentation the recent exhibition that was about AI, and it was named Type 3 in the Ruins of a New World. So you can guess from the name that it was quite dark, gloomy, even dystopian exhibition. And it was based on long-term work by Finnish artist Pasi Rauhala. And the story was set in a near future scenario where this AI system called Tape 3 had taken over the world and governed the world. And he also, this exhibition was about AI, but the artist also used AI for the production and artistic work of the exhibition. And we kind of, beforehand, we thought that it would spark a lot of conversation about the ethics of AI and about the authorship and how can one use AI as a tool in artistic world. But that conversation never really happened. We were kind of surprised about that. But instead, it turned out that the visitors really wanted to reflect on the AI in general. And we, because the exhibition was kind of dark, we decided to have this space in the exhibition. In the final room, there was this a space where you could reflect on it simply by writing your thoughts or fears or expectations about AI in a paper and put it on the wall for others to see as well. And it was a really simple way to give space for reflection, but it was really incredibly popular, and we ended up with several thousands of notes from people about their fears and their thoughts about AI and the future. And we are looking for ways to use this material as for some kind of research purposes, but because I think it's really valuable material.
Now it's my turn. We are following the flow. Well, to us, I think I would like to say one thing that I think to us it's very important regarding the topic that you mentioned. I think, first of all, I think we should not forget that the aesthetic experience of an exhibition and of the visit to a museum, because the aesthetic experience can work dimensions of the human being that it's really through the aesthetic, through the artistic and the creative dimension that you can work on. There are no other ways of doing better, like the emotional, the physical, the psychological, the spiritual dimension of the encounter with art. So to us it's really, really important to have this balance between aesthetic and ethics. And to in each exhibition, even if it's not a controversial theme, it's a theme that is we try to be like open to see what it's more that can bring us together, and then to be that is more than what is we have in common, and not just what we have in different. And through that exhibition, we work through initiatives, through the educational program, to debates, etc., and also giving space to the individual experience and singular experience of each visitor, the inner experience of it, to deal with different aspects. For instance, one of the first exhibitions that we did in 2010 was about seeds, food seeds. And the seeds, with that, we can open a debate about the nature design, the impoverishing of our diet, the question of the loss of our biodiversity. So it's really wider how can, through art or through design in our case, you can work plenty of things. Now, on display, we have simultaneously 3 exhibitions. One about stickers, political stickers during our democracy, 50 years of democracy, that we can study and see and learn how, in this small rectangle, it's a work of design. How can you had to deal with the message, with the color, with the composition, with the printing, but also see how we project causes, dreams, as society, how the parties and associations deal with that, with this very democratic way that you can put on your chest. Or you can have also an exhibition about photographs of António Variações, that was a singer and a composer, but it deals also with the question of the gender, of the liberty of how he pulled himself as a very freedom man. Before we used to use this non-gender question, he lived in 1980s, and he was already an example of this non-gender and topic that we can now bring again to the topic. So I think it's always this dimension that to try to and some of the exhibitions are clearly right immediately on daily life topics. That's for sure.
Thank you. Talking about the most challenging exhibition, I think that was for us an exhibition or on project with the artist from South Africa, Gabrielle Goliath, and she, in her video installation, she really focused on torture, on violence, on domestic violence, on rape, and of course it was quite of a challenge. How would you guide your visitors through this topic, and on the other hand, if they guide you through, so how will they come back? So for us it was quite important that we were quite present all the time, in person, and also the artists, because as you can imagine, this was also a topic that not only had a great effect on looking at for something that is far away, like a story that is told from far away, but at a sudden it was something that it really connects to so many questions around us, also in the city, of the region, and there were so many also people reaching out to us, also younger people telling us, that is my story. And then is the question, how do you react to this kind of emotional effect?
That's really rewarding.
Exactly. So I think it was quite important that the artist was present, we were present, and as you mentioned before, Barbara, as well, that you can also try to build a certain parcours through the space, that you can breathe and that you can also maybe just see the sky, to breathe a moment and just to calm down and to reflect.
So, the contemporary art exhibition might be intimidating, unsettling, and how do you encourage, engage people who might be not familiar with art and design, have no background, and are like new visitors in your museum?
At Malva, we actually, one of our main target groups from the very beginning has been first-timers in museum. So you could say that it's kind of, accessibility is kind of in our blood, in a way. It's also, it helps that we have, in the same building, we have a cafe, a restaurant, very popular one, and then also a small brewery and bar. So you could say that that barrier is very low to come into the museum if you are already in the same building having a great time with your friends or family. And well, for example, we offer easy to read materials for all of our exhibitions, and yeah, we think a lot about accessibility.
Well, that's really a tough question and a very important topic. How can you approach new and wider audience? I think we had to we try to give more and more attention, because sometimes I think it's not yet the deserved one. but to accessible language in all the level inside the museum. And I think that's a work in progress, really, to us, to our theme, and to the museum. Also try to make a more participatory mediation, and to help, not to explain or to interpret what is in front of us, but try really to mediate, to create talks or moments of sharing. And through that also try to have an active listening to each other. And one more time, I think design is really the field to do that. And also design, but also architecture and art, because it puts us sometimes in front of things that, apart from our difference of culture and backgrounds, etc., we put ourselves in something that we share, that is our emotions and humankind.
Thank you. In terms of the building, I think something that really helped us is the big foyer. So you just enter the Kunsthaus through a big foyer public, so you don't pay entrance. It's just there's already strong artworks within this foyer. But it invites also people, children, to do their homework before going to a school of rock and doing something else, or like older people to have a little celebration of their 90th anniversary with some colleagues. I think so structural-wise this helped a lot to open it. It's just an open space where you can be. You don't have to go further if you don't want to. But as you saw in the DNA of Kunsthaus Basel-Land, it's also that we are there's a certain movement. And what we started from the times of COVID, but this is something that we also continue, we go out. So for example, we have a video collection, and we just hired a little car, little bus, and we had a screen and we had a projector, and we just went to all the villages in the canton, and we just showed some parts of our video collection. And I very much like this idea of, as mentioned before, to understand the museum not as an architecture but a membrane and something we're doing inside, but we're also going out to the others, because sometimes you can't sit and wait, someone is coming to us. Also, we are doing wonderful programs, but just reaching out to them, to go to the clinics and showing some videos there, or to loan some works to different historical museums or to tram depots. And I think this is something I'm very interested in.
Thank you. Your museums have all gone through major building and transformation, and I would like to hear how the architecture of your spaces has influenced your collaboration with artists and designers to create a meaningful experience for your guests.
Yeah, I think for Malva, as a recently opened museum and very interdisciplinary one.
Brewery, yeah.
Yes, so we are putting a lot of emphasis on the experience of the exhibition. So we are aware of the conventions of displaying art and design. But at the same time, we are very much thinking about not only the concept, but also the scenography and dramaturgy of the exhibition and the ambience that it will be created in collaboration both with the artist, but also with the exhibition architect. So that's something that we really kind of work on collaboratively, and we have quite high, almost 6 meter high exhibition halls that can easily look very cold and empty. So there are multiple ways of like really directly interacting with the given spaces. On a more specific note, we are also currently working with an artist on a large-scale installation, which takes as its starting point the history of the brewing in the building, and specifically from the smell point of view. So the artist is a smell researcher and an artist and also a chemist. So at the same time, like while we are a museum of visual arts and we work with architecture and visual things, we also are interested in the psychology of looking and seeing, and how can you also trigger something aesthetic through the more overseen senses, like in this case, smell.
Thank you.
Well, I think in my presentation I already give some ideas about it. To us, the building, that it is a very complex, important but very complex heritage. that we received partially destroyed interiorly due to their long history, doesn't mind in this moment. But to us, it's like, it's a content. It's part of our collection, heritage to work with. Like the pieces, like the archive, like the other elements of the museum, and it was a long periods and long years to study and to make the museological and the architectonical project, and our decision was not to erase or to rebuild something new interior like a white cube. We accept the differences. So it's like we intend that the museum, the building itself became a living archive for understanding the history of architecture, the history of engineering, the history of construction, how Portuguese culture and architectonical culture conceived and evaluate or not that kind of moment in history that is almost like our 20th century architecture, and how it was evaluating. How can we, inside that building, transforming through this lens of design? How can you live with that, and more than that, how can we, in the exhibitions, in the moment where different initiatives that people go and live and be, how can we all together can understand that is an heritage to preserve and to learn with it and to debate? And it's complex because it has a relation with our colonialist history. But the heritage, in our opinion, it's not just to erase and say, well, it never happened. No, it happened, and it have to be lived and debated through design in our cases.
I think most challenging for us was we didn't want to have an architecture or design something on iconic architecture, even if it might look like that. But just remember that the towers, they are, first of all, they are pillars. So for us it was important just to create an instrument where art can happen. And of course the living artists, they already showed us what they need. And I think that was, beside that challenging moment that we had to raise the money for the last 10 years, so that was the main task, just to raise the money, to think about how we can do it. The construction itself was only 2 years. But I think on the good hand, it was something quite nice to think about, quite in depth, what we really need. And as mentioned, drilling 100 holes in the floor could make a difference. And so, of course, it was also quite nice working with the architect in a different sense, not only about how can we shape something, but in the end, how practical is it? And is it really something, a freedom, like a free instrument that we can hand out? Exactly.
Thank you. We are slowly running out of time, but there are some questions on Slido. And the first one is to all of you. Who has visited since you're reopened, and has the audience changed or surprised you in any way? Who has visited since your opening, and has the audience changed or surprised you in any way? Yeah.
Well, I can say about the Type 3 exhibition about AI. I can say that we kind of anticipated that there would be many young people coming to see that exhibition because it had this video game-ish visual world. And because it was about technology and AI, we thought that young people would be the ones that would be most interested about it. But actually, we were wrong. It was the elder people, 70 and plus, who were the most eager fans of the exhibition. And that is something that I found really interesting, that, I don't know, maybe a museum is kind of safe space to study some new technologies for the elder people. Well, that was one surprise that we had recently.
Well, to us, as we are in the main arteria, the main street, in the historical center of Lisbon, very crowded of tourists, we thought that maybe it will be like our main visitor, and it's not. It's much more nationals, locals, families that come, in particular moments of the week that is free to entrance. And it's interesting to understand that and to debate that, how sometimes we can be an institution that is in the center of the city, but for different reasons, urban reason, social, cultural, we are really not like in the center of the living.
Citizens, you're in the center, yeah.
Exactly. Like
fast tourism, but
yeah,
not
absolutely.
Not citizens
And
of
so
Lisbon.
you had to rethink about your program, your strategy, to be more open in different hours with different programs, and that's it. It was one of the surprises.
Well, most surprising for us was the amount of visitors. So before it was like about 10,000, and now we are up to 34,000. And of course, you have what you expected, like the students or architectural aficionados, tourists, etc. So that was quite new for us. But the same, like Paivi said, I think for us was also kind of maybe it's the greatest success that you see so many children doing their homework under the chandelier of Pippi Lottie-Rist or something else. I think
it's a safe space for them.
They just use it for something, and then they just pass away. Or if older people, I think that's the same, because as mentioned now that older people living also in the area, sometimes they're quite alone, and then they come to the foyer just to have a coffee, maybe with the other one. And I think these kind of just to open up a space. And then, of course, some of them they decide as well to look at the exhibition. So I think
the next step.
Exactly.
Yeah. But do you see that people are coming back to this? Do you observe that you recognize the faces?
Yeah, and actually, I think this is also a success that we had because of a very good partner. We were also able to, I think up to 26 or 27. So the Kunsthaus is free of charge, and I think that also makes a difference. I think that, of course, we all would love to have an open space where you don't pay anything, but I think that really makes a difference to bring the people in.
Yeah, we are a little bit behind the schedule, but would you mind if I ask like one more question from the audience? Environmental sustainability and art museum. Where do these themes meet in your museum? That's the question to all of you.
Well, to us, in all the moment.
From the beginning of renovation.
Since the beginning of the renovation, in the daily life, in the choices we make, in the materials that we use, in the program, in the themes of the exhibition, in all. But let me just say one thing, but the sustainability is not just a question of the environmental sustainability. We have to think about the cultural and the economical and the social. So I think it's that complex. 4 pillars.
Well, yeah, it's also integrated in all of our functions, basically. So sometimes it can be a thematic approach, and the exhibition project is specifically focusing on these themes. But the other times it can be, for instance, the installation by Jane Lee that we showcased, where the artist was using completely recycled material for her installation, and then parts of the material, parts of the artworks were acquired as part of our collection, and after the closure of the show, the remaining parts were put back into recycling. But it wasn't about circular economy per se, or recycling, but it was kind of integrated as part of the conceptual gesture that we made as an institution and with the artists. So sometimes these tactics are a little bit more hidden, and sometimes it's more like a thematic approach, and we use it also to educate our audiences more directly.
Thank you. I think I also just can confirm, I think reuse is our DNA. So everything that we find, we can try to think about how can we get use in it. For example, the old wood from the old, still from the transformation, from the old ceiling, became a library, or the salt we used for an installation, we used then outside in wintertime. So I think this is also, it's also great also to think about how we can work with these materials as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the discussion, and let's give a big applause, a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. And so we'll move to the next panel. Please welcome my colleague Beat Achler with his panelists. Yeah. Thank you.